Our guest today is a 20-year FBI veteran, former Supervisory Special Agent, and is highly skilled in crisis management, hostage negotiation, profiling, cyber strategy, behavioral analysis, surveillance, interrogation, and far more. Susan consults for SNC Strategies Group using her 20 years experience as an FBI agent, 10 years experience in psychiatric social work, and her master's degree in counseling psychology to help individuals, universities, corporations, and humanity. Welcome, Susan. Excited to have you join us on Little Star Light.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I'm so excited to be here. And thank you very much for having me. And thanks for everything that you do for your organization and all the people that you help, especially the children.
Wow. Well, that's quite an intro already. And that was just a brief summary on what you've done. And that's a lot of impressive work. What motivated you to take that journey? I mean, were you young, like as a kid and watched a show, or what drew you to that kind of calling? Because that's a really special, tough calling.
You know, Andrea, a lot of people ask me that and they're disappointed with the answer because most people think, and most people do grow up watching TV shows and that inspire them to want to take on this role and go down this path. I was working with a crisis intervention for the county in Newark, Delaware, and I was going out with the Secret Service. I would use my behavioral analysis skills and consult with them. Secret Service agent said to me one night, we were out 2 a.m., "What are you going to do with your life?" And I had just completed my master's degree. I'd gone to night school while working a day job. And I told him I wanted to get my PhD in psychology and I wanted to have my own practice and help people. And he basically, I won't repeat what he said to me verbatim, but he said to me essentially, "That was not a smart idea." And I said, "But why?" And he said, "Because you are young and single, and you need to think about you're going to be $80,000 in debt. You'll have tremendous debt. You'll have to do a dissertation. It's going to take you 4 years. You are already doing profiling. You're already doing hostage negotiation. You're doing behavioral analysis and assessment. Why don't you join the FBI?" And at about 28 years old, the light bulb, dimly started to go off in my head. And never in a million years did I think that I would get hired. But it seemed like a good idea because he said, "You'll have healthcare for life. You'll have a pension. And in about 5 years, you'll start making $80,000 rather than being in debt." So, Andrea, it was a financial decision. It felt like at 28, I was trying to make a responsible decision for myself and my future. And, but I didn't think I would get in. So that's how I applied.
That's amazing. What a story. Okay. The training's intense. What was the training like for you?
Training as a young 28-year-old psychiatric social worker was very difficult for me, very difficult, because it's 4 months when I was hired, and now it is probably over 5 months of intensive training with weapons. Now, I had never shot a weapon in my life. It's daily tests, almost like if you were an attorney. You have to learn the law, you have to learn psychology, you have to learn how to put together a case so that when we go into a crime scene or we're searching someone's house, we know the protocol and procedures. So it was 4.5 months of daily just using your mind, using your body, working out, push-ups, calisthenics, timed, and testing us to see if we can make it through.
Okay. So I think about that because Adriana and I came from tennis. And so our training was a lot more than 4.5 months. And that's just a sport. It's like, hey, you miss a ball, no big deal. You get the next point. So that's, and it's incredibly interesting because then are you all of a sudden put in dangerous situations after that? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So then you
gosh.
take the oath, you graduate on a stage with the director handing you your credentials and your weapon, and you go off to your new squad, wherever that is. So when you join, you could be anywhere across the United States, right? You could be in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You could be in San Francisco. I was assigned to Washington, D.C., the big city of, to me, it was a huge city. And so you go off and you're assigned to a squad, and all of a sudden you show up bright-eyed, bushy-tailed at 30 years old, ready to go.
That's amazing. Was there ever a time during training or thereafter that you thought, I'm going to quit? This is not for me?
Yes. There was a night when we had been going through firearms training, and we're timed. So it's called a pistol qualification course. We're prone position, so we're on our stomachs, coming up, shooting 25 yards, and then we have to get up and run and shoot some more. We're timed, and we have to have accuracy. So we were all given the weapon, and at the time, I was about 100 pounds. And so pulling that trigger and being able to aim was extremely difficult for me. So there was a time when I thought, I can't do this. Like, I'm not going to qualify. And if you don't qualify, either time-wise or get so many bullets in that circle, they send you home on what we call the blue bus. A bus came to Quantico, you would board it, and it would take you away.
Wow, that's much different than what we see on TV and all that. I have many other questions for sure, but I'll come back on those. Karen's going to join us now, and I've known Karen since she's a child when she had childhood cancer, and we've actually had some retired FBI and CIA volunteers help us at sessions, and Karen was at one of those sessions helping as well, so she's familiar with that. But so Karen, here's your turn. Get ready, here we go.
Hi, Karen.
This
Hi,
is some
Susan.
kind of session.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
You as well.
Thank you. When Andrea said you're in the FBI, the first thing that came to my mind was Criminal Minds. Have you ever watched that show?
I have. Yes.
I love it. I think I watched it twice already.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they just specify about they're a behavioral unit. Like they do profiling, so they get called onto like the special cases, like the serial killers and whatnot. But sometimes it makes me wonder how accurate the show is. Is there would you be able to share any of the interesting cases you've worked on?
So
the most interesting one?
I probably won't be able to tell you about too many specific cases because it would take me too long. But I can tell you that nobody in the FBI looks like Shamar Moore.
Oh, dang.
So, just to give you an idea of the Criminal Minds versus reality. So in the behavioral analysis, they're housed at Quantico, but they have field profilers who are in all the field offices around the country. So for example, I sat in Washington, D.C., and I was a field profiler, so that if there were murders that police departments couldn't solve around the D.C. area, we were often asked to assist, but we have to be invited. Mm-hmm. Also, when you go to Quantico at the behavioral analysis unit, the police departments come to you. So I know that everybody's flying around on a G6 on that TV show, right? Everybody's boarding and they're going to Tennessee, and that's reality is that your tax dollars and people like Andrea and my tax dollars wouldn't support any unit of the FBI flying around in a luxury G6 plane. So in reality, the police departments fly to or drive to Quantico, Virginia, and they sit around a big, huge conference table, and we review the case there. Many times the murders and killings have happened many months, if not years prior. So there's no sense in our flying to a scene. It's usually not fresh. We're usually just watching photos afterwards. And again, I will just emphasize that, as you can see from me, and I'm sure you've met through your volunteer work, other CIA, other FBI, many of us we're very average looking people. And I'll tell you what, I would have stayed if there had been anybody that looked like that cast on Criminal Minds. A great question.
Thank you. And then is there any case in particular that has stuck with you over the years?
There was people were receiving through the mail poisonous anthrax, and the anthrax was aerosolized. So it looked like almost hairspray when you sprayed it. And it was that fine. So when people were opening up these envelopes, it would go everywhere and people would inhale them, and people actually died from this. It was a guy by the name of Bruce Ivins that worked at Fort Detrick. And so I helped out on that case. Also, I helped out on the DC sniper case. We tried very diligently to figure out who was doing these killings.
Wow.
So those are two cases that really stick out. There were many cold cases that I worked on our cold case squad as well. But those were two high profile cases that you may read about.
Wow, thank you for sharing. It's really interesting because as you were telling me these cases, I kind of picture them in Criminal Minds because I think they kind of portrayed them in there. So
yes,
that's really,
oftentimes
really
they do take from the headlines and older cases.
That's awesome. So now with your background as an FBI agent and what you've gone through, what is your favorite movie genre?
So probably not surprisingly, I love murder mysteries.
Yeah.
And I love especially like British murder mysteries. I love Agatha Christie. But also I love old movies. Like I'm an old movie buff.
Oh.
And when I was in the United Kingdom, way before you were born, in 1980, I had some traumatic head injury. And so I recuperated in Cardiff, Wales. And during that time, the only thing that made me feel better and like home was, don't laugh, old Doris Day movies. So I'm a huge Doris Day fan, and I'm also a huge old movie fan.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Now it's interesting. You mentioned Cardiff, Wales. We've helped through playing at Wimbledon. We've helped kids with cancer in Wales, from Wales and from England. And we've also brought them over to the US. So they've gone skiing and whitewater rafting, and Wales is a very beautiful place. But
beautiful.
Yeah, I've only known about it because I wanted to help kids that were back in that region, the United Kingdom area of that part of the country. And the stories that you did mention, I remember reading about those cases in the news. And it brings me to, sometimes at first glance with people, you don't really know their history. You don't know what their journey's been, and you can kind of just walk by and carry on with your day. And so what's so fascinating is like what you're sharing about your history, and even with Karen, who I've known since she's this little kid, she had 2% chance of survival from cancer. And she was very, very shy. I mean, Karen knows this. When she came to her programs, I mean, it took her a lot to talk and to share. And then now she's great with the other kids. She's bubbly and effervescent. But, this isn't what I thought her genre. And all of a sudden, when you came out, she was like, she just comes to life. And it's like, Criminal Minds, I'm going to ask about that. And it's really great because everyone has a story. Everyone does have something special about their journey in life. And to honor that, it's, there's just, especially people in service who give their life every day for others to feel safe. It really is a privilege. So often the public doesn't know about any of it until it comes in the news. And so, thank you for your service. I mean, you say it so humbly about the things that you've worked on and you've done, and it is great to know other sides of people. And it's just, it's really remarkable. And thank you for that. And just while we're talking, this is called Little Star Light, and we do work with kids. I just want to make sure that kids, Silence of the Lambs isn't a story, isn't a movie about baby animals. So do not watch out. Stay away from that one. Okay. Yeah, so keep that separate. But anyway, when you watch those shows, do you ever sit back, Susan, and go, wow, that was me? I mean, I know it's a little different. I mean, they may follow some cases, but do you go, I did that for 20 years. I was dodging bullets. I was jumping off of here and there. Are you just like in awe of when you think about that?
So like every day. And every day, even when I was working in Washington, D.C., I don't know if this happened to you as a professional tennis player, top in the world, you go, is this really me? Like, can I really do this? Can I really overcome these obstacles? How is it that I got here and I'm lucky enough and I'm working in the capital of the United States of America and I get to help solve these cases, right? And every day you kind of pinch yourself and you've got the gratitude and it's sometimes still a mystery that I was able to accomplish that.
It is. It's remarkable. And it is, again, great how people, there's just so many layers to a person. And sometimes you don't necessarily want to give your layers to someone else because you want to be respected, and so thank you for sharing. I know that so much you can't share, but we're appreciative for the things you can share. So Adriana is now going to join us, and she's had an interesting life with different talents and layers. And so here comes Adriana.
Hi, Susan. It is wonderful.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. It is wonderful to be on the podcast with you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So some of these questions I would like to ask you, you touched up on them a little bit, and we all were really wondering, like, how did she get into this kind of field and work in psychiatric social work? And I sort of had a feeling, and it's not a boring story at all for me. It's beautiful that you said it all started with wanting to help others. Mm-hmm. And it just sort of translated into a very kind of intense working and exciting environment for you. And but at the end of the day, it is about helping others. So thank you so much for that. So I will ask you, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced and how did you manage to overcome them? I know you mentioned the training already, but I wanted to elaborate a little bit more further, if you can.
So one of the stories that I share is during the training, and I touched on this before about the weapons, and I thought I was going to quit, and I called my father for support, and I said, Dad, I don't think I'm going to make it through here. That it's too hard. The weapons are, I just can't do it. And he said to me, I don't know what you were thinking when you applied to the FBI, whatever made you think that you could be an FBI agent. And that was a lesson for me, because I was like, what? I'm calling my dad for support. And yet the one thing that he did for me, so I hung up the phone, of course, and I thought to myself, I'm going to do this. I'm going to show him I can do this. And I had never had any of those feelings before in my life. Like I was not a confident person, but there was something that triggered me to say, I am not going to fail. I'm going to succeed through this, and I'm going to do this. And then once the instructors saw that I came back with this new dedication and anger, really, and determination, really, they really helped me. And so it was about like the support system that everybody needs to then succeed through your hardest challenges. And I was so lucky that that happened to me. And that is really what got me through.
That's amazing. So yes, I was wondering about that. Like if you, and this was another question I was going to ask, and you touching up on that a little bit more. So I'm just being a little more specific. This is great. I was wondering, so you just mentioned your father. Did you always have some sort of guidance? And after that, I will ask, what words of wisdom would you give to your younger self, like child, when you were a child?
So my father and I were very close. My father, just by way of background, went to the priesthood. And so he decided about halfway through that that wasn't for him. But he was always sort of guided by just, I think Kurt Warner touched on this in his podcast, like, what would Jesus do? What is the right thing to do? What is the golden rule? And so I was raised with very, strict ethics, morals, and the need and the obligation to help others. And so those are some of the principles that I was raised with that really got me through and guided me into caring for others, doing the psychiatric social work, serving my country with the FBI. And I was so lucky to have that foundation and those values growing up.
Yes, beautiful. So it was a lot of spiritual guidance, and that's so wonderful.
Lots of it.
What are some of the qualities a person needs to have to be considered to work in your particular field?
Okay, so it's probably changed now versus when I was hired, which was 1996. But first and foremost, you have to be able to talk to other people, because no case can be made. You can't make a criminal case or any case against a human being unless you've got the ability to talk to other people and gather information. And that means bringing people in and making them feel comfortable enough, and that having them trust you enough to divulge some of their deepest secrets or some of the things that they've been observing about the neighbor that you are knocking on their door and want to know about, and just the ability to have rapport with other people and be able to develop that into ongoing relationships that may develop down the road. Because somebody that gives you information on one person may also be able to give you information on other people that you're interested in. So the skill set's very much about communications and just the ability to put other people at ease when you meet them. And now the hard skills that we're looking for, of course, in this day and age are languages and cyber ability.
Wow, cyber ability. Yes, it makes sense. I mean, today's world for sure, with technology. Yeah. So what does your self-care looks like? I mean, that's incredible. All that you have to do, and you had to do even before. So what did you do for yourself to recover from difficult situations? So
the biggest thing for me that helps me recover from any trauma, any difficult situations, and I talk about this also with veterans that have been through things like Benghazi, just any Afghanistan, Iraq, and that is the ability to self-nurture. And that means, for me, communicating with nature, and being out in nature and having that help you heal, being with my dogs, right? Anything where your focus is not on yourself, but it's on something else to care for. Taking care of other human beings. People in my neighborhood have cancer. They need to be driven to the doctor's office. And moving through trauma is often about giving back and getting outside of yourself, and simply the joy in the care of others.
Beautiful. Thank you
and
so much.
watching a good Doris Day movie, honey.
Yes. Have you seen Casablanca? I'm sure you have.
Yes, I have.
Oh,
yes, I
okay.
have.
I have yet to watch that, and I've been told that it's one of the best movies ever. So I'm saving that one for a special time.
It's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Thank you so much for sharing, Susan.
You're welcome.
So it's interesting because you touched on this already about how you had a career and then you went into a different career. And so I wanted to bring that up for audience members because it doesn't matter. You can find anybody in life and they might have thought of something else. They might have studied, they might have trained, they might have had bills from education and that, and then soared in a different path. And so I was going to give one little example in my life on that, and maybe that will help audience members too, with finding their own passion and interest. And so your first career can be a stepping stone. That happened to me with professional tennis. But what happened before professional tennis is I loved reading. I loved whether I was in hotels. I mean, I turned pro at 14 and was 2 in the world at 16. So I was in a lot of hotels. I grew up in hotels, grew up in transportation cars and planes, and I always had a book. I mean, it was constantly, I loved reading. And even in the bathtub, it was like I had to have my book and read. And so some of the books I was reading while I was on the circuit, I thought I'm going to contact these authors. And so one of them back in, when I was a kid on the circuit, it was the author, he wrote The CIA and the Cult of Intelligence. And I thought these are really, most of my books were about service and about like enhanced learning, like learning about something. And I was traveling to Washington, D.C. frequently for events. And I thought, why not contact him? Why not get a hold of it? And so I was a teenager at the time and went to visit him in Langley, Virginia. And I contacted him and he was great. And we became friends. We visited, we talked, we strategized about a lot of things, worked together on some projects. And it was such a different life from what I was doing with tennis. And I loved it. And another time when I read, back in, I think it was 1984, Inside the Criminal Mind. And that was a book by a criminal psychologist. And it was just fascinating to me to see how people, where their decision-making process happens, because for some people it's a split second to do something that they regret and to maybe take a pause and step back. And for other people, their callings are well known and they understand and they step forward. And so I've always loved doing that as a kid. And so for you, now that you've had all this experience and you've gone through things, and my parents didn't know I was reading all these books. They just were happy I was reading. They were just, it was like, she's got dozens of them. And so that's a little unusual for a kid to be meeting with these kind of individuals and authors. But the fact was my life also had playing tennis at midnight and 1 in the morning and 2 in the morning playing tennis matches. So that isn't necessarily good for my health. If I could increase my knowledge with these authors, that would be really fun. So for people that, like a young male or a young female, you were an FBI agent. How many females were in your class when you were there? Because were you one of the few?
So we had, I believe, 9 and 4 graduated. Okay. Only 1 male did not make it through. 4 women did not make it through.
What would you tell a young female, young male that wants to go into this career? Because the news is tough. I used to saturate myself with wanting to know the news all the time because, with people that I was excited about meeting, maybe they would be interested in the foundation. I wanted to be knowledgeable. But now the news is really heavy. I've really scaled down watching the news because it's kind of overwhelming. There has to be, I don't know how does the FBI determine a barometer? Because success still can come with heartbreak. It can still come with loss of life. It can still come with trauma. So how do you prepare when someone comes up and says, I really want to do this career, but I don't know if I can handle it? Like, what do you say?
I say to them, if you really want to pursue this, do it. Because I was I went to night school for my master's degree. I was working on a crisis intervention. I did not graduate from Harvard. I was from a very middle-class family. I did not even know what I wanted to do in my life. If you think this is something, and I say this with every opportunity, if it's something that you think you want to try, just go for it. Just go for it. And you may be in the middle of it, like I was in training where I'm like, uh-oh, I might have made a mistake. And then things can suddenly turn around. So any opportunity that you can have, like the opportunity that you reached out for to contact authors, I've done that before. And you don't know what kind of relationships, which is what life is all about, right? What's going to come of that, how that's going to blossom, what path that's going to take you down. And it may be completely different from where you thought you were going to go, right? But it's always going to be exciting. It's always going to be interesting. And people are really much kinder and nicer and more genuine than you think. And so just take a chance. That's what I would tell young people out there and my younger self. It's just go for it.
Now, with your degrees, you had a lot of skills before, and you had a lot of skills that you enhanced or worked on. I mean, you have counseling and psychology, you have cognitive behavioral therapy, you have critical incident stress management. These are not easy subjects. But yet they can help you in every day. It's not just in the career that you chose. How are what you studied, how do you incorporate that in your life now? Was there a time that there's so many questions that I was like, no, I should just talk to you later about that because this is a podcast. But were there times right after your career that you walked in a grocery store and was like, like you looked at everybody, or you couldn't turn off your brain? How did you turn off your brain from that elite level of assessing a situation?
Turning off your brain comes with time, just like everything, I think. And I think it just comes with you've got to give yourself the grace to let yourself relax. And it's almost like having a puppy, right? Eventually that puppy is going to trust you, and eventually that puppy is going to calm down, and eventually they're going to figure things out. But you've just got to give yourself and other people time to let that those adrenaline triggers really subside. And I texted about a year and a half, I would say, into retiring. I texted my girlfriend and I said, I can't believe it. There is a car in front of me, the light turned green, and I wasn't rolling down my window to scream out the window to tell the person to keep going or honking my horn. I was listening to nice music, and I just let the guy, put his foot on the accelerator whenever he wanted to. But in my old life, with the adrenaline that's always coursing through your veins, you're on the horn and you're shouting, and you've got places to go. And so you just got to go. And it amazed me that, oh my gosh, I don't even care. So you've just got to give yourself time. You've got to surround yourself with a good support system. You really, for me, nature and animals are key to my relaxation and my connecting with something that's outside of myself. And it's going to come. But just like with veterans, you've just got to give yourself time.
Absolutely. Now, we're going to go into a little bit of a lighter side of this to end, but I do want to bring up one other subject, which is childhood safety. There's parents out there. It's probably one of their biggest concerns that goes on. At Little Star Foundation, we're on our 38th year, and from second one, that was one of my biggest things to pay attention to, and parents later, and even kids later. I don't know, Karen, when you were in your sessions, you probably didn't even notice, but we wouldn't even let kids go to the bathroom by themselves, whether it like you just had an adult had to be with them. Because if you're at the movie theater or the airport or an amusement park, you never let that happen. So Karen, when you were at sessions, did you ever notice like, gosh, they're hovering an awful lot. What's going on? Did you ever think that?
No, I was very oblivious.
Oh, so, well, that's
I was young.
That's good. Good to know. But we've always taken that very seriously, and everyone should, even whether you have children or you don't have children. Childhood safety is, is important. And so, a very, very good friend of mine called me up, and this was last year, and she told me that her child was going to college, and it happened to another student, but she was in a regular store, just shopping. Just second year of college. This young female was, and a young male same age, came over to her, but he only came over to her after someone kind of started following her weird, like just following her. And she went through like 4 aisles, and it was during the daytime. It wasn't like late at night. And she just got this weird vibe going on. And so this young male came kind of her age and said, look, I see this guy following you. Are you okay? Is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, it's weird. He goes, let me walk you out to your car. Let me take care. Well, all of a sudden she started walking with him, got to the store door to leave, and thought, this is kind of weird. And so she stopped and didn't go with him. And this mom called me up, and because her child was just the same age as this college student. And it's like, wow, it's not just the little ones we have to worry about. It's like all throughout age, youngsters have this, you have to have an awareness of what's going on. And so what kind of advice would you give to parents? We have a really cool, this is going to be a different episode announcement, because with yours, we want people to have words of wisdom, and we have a whole list of them from if you send off your kids to college, but they're really fun ones. They're like, hey, make sure, if you're getting your rest, or call your mom, there's really fun light ones. But for parents, what would you, Susan, share that would be kind of important that you would want to know as a mom or a dad or a caregiver? Because like we're ultra, we have like 5 adults watching kids if they're 1 in the pool, or going to the bathroom. We're like ultra, because I grew up in an adult environment. I'm very serious about childhood safety. And so what kind of things would you suggest?
I would suggest a number of things. And I recently had a client come to me and say, could you look at my social media postings and just make sure like everything is okay? And I wrote her back and I was like, no, you had a huge party and you put your address. You took a photo and posted an invitation that has your address. Now you're living in an enormous house that a lot of people would enjoy entering. And she lives in an area where people in LA that are doing that, coming in, stealing all the handbags. So I said, take that down. So no identifiers. She then smartly asked me, her daughter had gotten her driver's license and her driving certificate. So she was holding it up. The daughter, who was 15 years old, all of her identifying information, but she smartly blurted out so that nobody could go in. And, on the iPhone or any smartphone, you just enlarge that and you can see all the child's identifying information. You put that together with the invitation where the child lives, and not a good idea. Also, the other thing that I would say is for the young people, don't look down so much at your phone, but for the parents, this can be your best tool to track your kids and where they are. And you can now set a lot of emergency contact information in here. If the child feels they're in danger, this little device, you can click it. I think it's 8 times or 5 times the side button, and it'll automatically dial 911 for you, 911, and connect you. You can connect silently. So although it's a problem with your head down so much and texting and not paying attention for the kids, for the parents, really don't be ashamed, or don't be ashamed to like track your kids, to know where they are, to be able to find them, because the police can't always trace the call. They can't, GPS doesn't always work for them on their end. Sometimes they've got to get a search warrant. So if you've got easy access and your child's already authorized for you to track them, or you've done it because they're underage and you're the parent, absolutely crucial to finding. And recently, my friend's daughter went hiking in the mountains in Washington State, disappeared. And
did they find her?
They found her after 24 hours though, but there was 24 hours where she was alive and she was rescued. Wow. But I called some of my friends still working up in Washington, and we had to get special equipment involved in trying to track her because the parents had not just used that app. They weren't able to track her. So that was a happy story, but I say use technology to your advantage. Don't be ashamed to hover. We call that in our business surveillance. And Karen says she wasn't detected, so you did a good job.
Yeah, she didn't notice the hovering. Some of the others are like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is just how we do it. And we'd get comments back like, I can go to the bathroom myself. I can go to the movie theater. And it's like, I know you can. I just want to go too. And so we'd always have that. And it was interesting because we've had several people in law enforcement volunteer, and one was this big guy. He works for the police department now, and he was so awesome of a presence. And later on, they find out now he's like has this important position as a police officer. Later on, they found out, wow, you had retired CIA and FBI, and it's just service people have in those kind of industries. Their awareness is so much. It's so much more heightened, and it's detail oriented, and it's important. One thing, and I do stress like even with the kids, they're like, well, we know how to swim. If we're in a hotel pool or the pool, whatever location we're at, we're like, hey, that's great. We just want to watch you and see how you swim, because a lot of hotels don't have lifeguards. So just don't always trust your child to be okay in the pool. Just have someone out there and watch them. Don't read your book. Don't be on your phone. Don't do other things. Just watch them and enjoy that, because it's something that you'll be happy about. So thank you for sharing those. And
Andrea, I have one more thing that I just wanted to mention.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. So this is for everybody, and every young child and every teenager and every adult. And this is taught first and foremost by John Douglas, who taught me, who's one of the best and most renowned profilers out there. He now has a master class if you're into master class. But the first thing that he teaches all of the profilers is trust your gut. And that was from the story that you just relayed about the girl in the store. And she trusted her gut. And don't ever doubt that. That is the best sense that you've got to keep you protected if you're alone.
Absolutely. I worked on a couple cases with a gentleman who he's headed up the World Detective Agency, and some of the stories didn't turn out as well. And so we did a couple of things that we presented before, that I helped present before Congress. And it's just, life has so many wonderful opportunities. And the things that you mentioned, those are simple things to do. They're just, don't feel bad about that. If your child is problem with tracking, when you present out of love, and I think that was one of the other things that you brought up, we don't think of the FBI or those law enforcement agencies as about communication, but life is about communication. And so often that can be the difference of just having a good day or not, and share when you're having a tough time. There's no such thing as as being alone in the world, because there's people that are there to reach out to, whether friends, family, however it is, neighbors, certainly. So now we're going to switch a little and end with words of wisdom on a little lighter episode. So on this announcement, it's actually really cool. We're going to have 45 different words of wisdom, and anyone who doesn't get our emails, just find me, and if you want to find Susan or something, we're not giving her last name, so you don't get that, but SNC Strategies Group is where she's at. So but you can always find me and I can direct you. But
I'm on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay. Yes, absolutely. It's, every day is a day. You don't have to just wait for your kids to go back to school. Every day is a day to just be, have a little bit of awareness, because life can be full of learning. It can be not just about safety. It can be about learning something new about a person and about life that you find more interesting. All right. So Karen, what are your 2 words of wisdom?
So mine are: believe you're capable of so much more than you think possible. I think that's very true, because sometimes we're just not confident enough, and then we think we're not worth it, or, we don't really think much of ourselves, but it's the opposite.
Yes.
And then my other one is everything in moderation. So I believe that in food and drinking and everything, and even studying, and, you cannot be overwhelmed. Don't overwhelm yourself with things. Just take it slow.
Yes.
Awesome. So that was number 4 on it, and number 22. And like I said, we'll get that to everyone in the announcement. When you picked that one, Karen, that said everything in moderation, I went, oh, I don't know if I'm so good on that. Because I don't think any professional athlete has. I mean, now maybe they're more aware. They might do stretching or massage or physical therapy and then resting. I'm. That's a really good one that you picked. I'm gonna hopefully it can be relative to each person, because my it's like when I'm excited about something, it's like, oh, I saturate myself in it because I love it. I'm super excited. So, but I'm gonna definitely put that one in. So I'll go next, and then Adriana, and then Susan will close out. So the ones that I picked on the list, it was the number 1 on the list. It said, you will become most like the 5 people you spend the most time with. Take time and choose your friends wisely. I really love that. I'm definitely love the friendship community kind of thing. So that one was a big one with me. And then number 23 on the list was 3 things will always follow you and be with you: God, your conscience, and the choices you make. So that was a really cool one too. So I'm excited for the audience members, because I know this is a different episode. This is a very important episode. This is to honor those who serve, to honor and thank you, Susan, because it is extraordinary what you've done. I mean, we thank all the people in service. Sometimes they have a hard go, and in every industry there might be tremendous amount of great, and then one that's still learning that process. But I thank the service people. And so Adriana, where are you at with your 2?
So for me, from the list, because it says before college, I'm going to be a little more specific about that. This is from a personal experience too. Get an on-campus job. You learn so much about how a university works, make friends, learn a new skill, and besides, they know the exam schedule, so you'll have time off to study. I think that was wonderful. I loved having a university job, made friends, and as on the list says, learned a lot of new skills, and it was a great value at the time. And the other one would be follow your gut with your major, even if your friends, family, or even if your college advisor tell you otherwise, or a new car as a bride to go to a particular school. That's huge, I think. Oh, as Susan, you said the same. You expressed this as well. Follow your gut, no matter what others tell you. It will take you probably to the path that's meant for you.
Those are great. In Adriana's case, she was a really exceptional professional athlete, but before that, she also played college tennis, Division I, and she was on a scholarship, which is very difficult to get. And she wanted to take art classes, and they wouldn't let her. They said, no, those are too expensive. You don't get those. You only get these courses. And so, but what's really cool is she has now in her adult life has gone on to teach art therapy to disabled children, children that are blind, children that are in orphans, children that are in hospitals. And so it's interesting because a door was shut on her and it opened back. She opened it back up. She pushed it down and said, you know what? I still have this gift that I want to give to the world, and I want to explore this passion. And that's a really, really cool thing. So, all right, Susan, so it's your words. I know you've given us a whole episode of them, but this is in a little bit of a different style. So what two would you like to share?
So I would also second that, because I was a religious studies undergraduate major, and people said to me, where are you going to get a job? And so it was just a calling for me. So just follow your heart, and look where I ended up, right? It's completely the opposite. So you're absolutely right. And follow your gut, follow your heart, do what makes you feel alive and happy. And when you do feel sad and down and you think, oh, I can't get out of this, reach out to other people and extend your hand and ask for help. But also help other people, because the joy of giving and giving back and taking care of whomever it is makes you feel joy in your heart and just gives you the happiness. And so I would also like to say, if you want to do it, if you've thought about doing it, law enforcement, FBI, go for it. Just any opportunity out there, not only in law enforcement, FBI, but whatever you want to do, have the confidence. You're worth it. You can do it. If I did it, anybody can do it.
You're pretty impressive footsteps to follow, Susan. But I'm going to get right after the podcast. I'm going to roll on the floor and get up and get on my stomach and see what I'm capable of doing. And then I'll go, you know what?
You're
right where I'm
capable.
I said, out of all the people,
yeah. That's it. As a professional athlete, I think fine.
Between the two of you,
we're all going to get to the gym and go, oh my gosh, look at us go. Actually, Karen and I don't go to the gym. Susan, I know, goes to the gym, and so does Adriana. But this is awesome, and just for people to know too, this isn't about just little girls growing up and doing great things. It's not about young women growing up and doing great things. It's about the women and the men, the girls and the boys, all doing great things, and together, absolutely. Together, it's and if you see someone that you feel like is doing something great, whether it's just the person at the grocery store or the person who's delivering the mail or picking up your garbage or someone who's keeping you safe, and make sure obviously it's in a safe circumstance, but say thank you, say hello and say thank you, because we all are connected in this world, and there's a lot of things out there that are tough, but together we always survive, with love and light and the blessings and prayer. There's just really cool things to connect us all together. And every time I'm with you, Susan, I'm amazed at what you've done, and you're so humble, and it's just like, oh, look, she's just walking her dog. And then it's like, what? You used to work for the FBI. And then when we're looking at your bio, it's something so extraordinary that you should be so proud of. And we want to make sure people get to recognize the effort that someone like you has made for us to be safe, to solve things and to help things. That's important.
I appreciate that greatly. I do. I want to say this, though, to you. The reason that you're more impressive than I am is because being an FBI agent is really about teamwork. You're on a squad. It's not like Criminal Minds, or it's not like any FBI show where you typically don't have a partner. There's really no partners. If you're going out to do an interview, like, you grab the person that's sitting behind the desk that's doing nothing. But it's really, FBI is teamwork. And your two successes are all about you did that by yourself. You stood alone and did all of that.
I know, but if we made a mistake, no big deal. You lost a point. You guys make a mistake and what? It's on the front page news, and you're
on the front page news. Yeah.
And it's horrible how that happens. And I feel for that. And that's why I am amazed at people who wake up and go, you know what, I'm going to serve our country. It's like, I try to serve our country and the world and humanity and God by just doing the best I can in what I was called to do. But it's, and fundraising can be difficult. I will say it's not like it's life-threatening, but it's definitely life-altering. There's stressful times and decades on that. But the fact of the matter of people who step up and say, I'm going to serve and I'll give my life for that is just wow. And so often they're unrewarded. It's not like they get the biggest paycheck. There's a lot of divorce rates. There's a lot of, they don't have children. They don't, and I'm going to keep this part in because it's true. You go through life and you're serving so much. Cases don't stop at 5 p.m. They don't start at 9 a.m. And a lot of it is middle of the night stuff. And that, how can you keep a family balanced and children and marriages? That's a very difficult thing. So it's a choice and it's a calling and it's a service. And it's just, it really is. It's an honor to have you on. And I'm honored by people who do take that to heart and soul and say, I'm going to give my life for you to have a better one. So Susan, thank you again. This is so exciting, interesting. It was such an honor, and look forward to our next little walk together with the dogs, enjoying the nature and the animals and talking about other stories. But thank you and God bless.